Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'll be showing you how I make custom cakes at home for my family. I prefer to use the Betty Crocker's cake mix instead of making the entire cake by scratch. The results are always promising and also it's really easy to make. Being said that, there are actually some tips that you should follow even if you're making these boxed cakes so that the results are always perfect. Tip number 1 is really obvious but actually really important. Always use a measuring cups and spoons set. These box cakes can go wrong if you haven't measured even one ingredient correctly. Tip number 2 is always use an electric hand mixer even if the box gives you an option of just whisking it by hand. I have tried making the cake both ways and I can tell you just using an electric hand mixer is so much easier as compared to just whisking it by hand. I noticed a drastic change in quality of the cake when I just mixed it by hand. So if you have an electric hand mixer, I would definitely say use that. Okay, tip number 3 is always sift your cake mixture before adding it to the wet ingredients. This will make your cake sponge really light and airy as compared to just putting it directly into the wet mixture. There would be some stuff left in the sifter that would not sieve through. You just put it back in the mixture. Do not discard it out. The idea of sifting the mixture is not to get the impurities out but actually to make the cake base light and airy. So just keep everything there is. So now all the ingredients are there and we just have to mix it. I prefer to start mixing on the lowest speed possible and then gradually increase up to the speed that they say on the box cake mix. If you're using any other brands of the box cake, that is totally fine. Just make sure to follow all the instructions that they have on their box and you can add in these tips and tricks that will make you and give you the perfect cake. For custom cakes, even at home, you can just use any flavoring that you like. So just this cake, I was using chocolate, but for the cakes before, I have used vanilla cakes or even a red velvet cake. All of them have turned out perfect. So you just have to follow the basic structure and actual basic rules of making a cake, and then that base would be perfect regardless of what flavor you're using. At this point, I have made so many cakes at home. They were 2 tiers, 1 tier with figurines, with fondant or even icing. But let's make one thing clear. I'm not a professional baker or cake decorator. I haven't done any courses or any classes of that sort. But everything that I've learned is throughout the years when I'm making a cake for my family or decorating a cake for my kid's birthday, and just by watching TikTok videos and Instagram videos. There's just so much information out there, and obviously you need a lot of practice to really perfect it to their level. But then doing this entire cake on your own and the memories that you make while doing that cake is really worthwhile. So that's why I prefer to do it myself. Anyhow, this is how you cut the butter paper exactly to the size, to the round size. So what I do is I basically mark the round shape of the cake mold and then I fold it in half and then again another half, and then cut along the side where obviously it's marked like where the round was. So once you open it up, you can get the perfect round shape. I used to struggle with getting the exact size, but then now after using this hack, it's been so easy. I do put a little bit of oil on the paper and obviously on the side so that the cake does not get stuck to the sides or the bottom. And that is the tip number 4. Do grease your pan and paper as well so that you can have the smooth edges of your cake. I use the regular vegetable oil to grease my pan. You can also use a butter. I put all the mixture into the 12-inch cake mold. Be mindful of the sizes that you're using. So when I was using the 12-inch cake mold, the entire mixture that was made from one cake box was enough to fit and bake in it. However, when I was using the 8-inch cake mold, it was too much, so that's why I made 2 cakes out of 1 box. So altogether I made 4 cakes, 2 small ones and 2 big ones from 3 boxes. Normally the cake is baked in the time and the temperature that they say so. However, do check by inserting the toothpick through. Okay, so here comes the tip number 5. Why I am ruining the dome of this perfect cake. We need to decorate this cake, and for decoration it has to be flattened on the top. So that's why when it was piping hot, I flattened the top by using the spatula, and now that it's on room temperature, I'm taking it out and wrapping it nicely in the Glad wrap all around it so that I can put it in the fridge. You can even put it in the freezer. The colder it is, the easier it is to decorate on the next day. So I do bake the cakes a day before I have to decorate. So here comes the fun part of decorating. If you're planning to decorate a cake at home, I 100% recommend you getting a small cake decoration kit. You can get it from Amazon or anywhere. I will definitely add a link in the description box of this kit that I'm using. I also got it from Amazon. So let's start decorating this construction theme birthday cake. So first up, I place the cake board on the table. I use the cardboard side so that it goes well with the construction theme. Then place a little bit of icing. Place one of the 12-inch cake on the board so the little icing on the bottom will help it stabilize on its place. I was using this pre-made icing from Betty Crockers again. Trust me, this video isn't sponsored by Betty Crockers, but I definitely use their products because they're so good. I have made icings at home. They're so hard to make. Stability is an issue, but these pre-made icings are so easy to use, inexpensive, and really taste good. So why bother making the icing at home? So I did place icing on the first layer and then added the second 12-inch cake, and again place a good thick layer of this icing because remember, this is the only creamy part of this cake. The rest I didn't add the sugar syrup. I never do. I just feel like even without it the cakes are good. If you want to, you can, and even the professional bakers do, but I don't. So what I do, I did place a little bit of icing on the sides and then started scraping from this tool. So this also came in the same Amazon kit that I have linked in the description box. Once the first layer of icing is done, which is also called crumb coat, I place it in the fridge so that it's nice and cool and a little bit stable so that I can put another layer of this icing on. The inspiration for this cake came from a Pinterest picture, and in that picture the cake was a lot smaller and narrow. However, my cake was a lot wider and bigger on the base, as the cake molds that I used were a lot bigger than the ones that I was supposed to. I do not prefer buying any more tools or any more things that I just need for one cake and that I'm not gonna use in future. And there's one thing that you should definitely keep in mind. Whenever you're making these kind of cakes at home, sometimes the cake might not turn out 100% like the inspirational pictures. Sometimes you have to change your ways, you have to change the things that you are using, even though they do not like what they have used in the picture, but you just have to make it work. So here we were using the Kit Kat bars, and they were smaller and shorter in height than we wanted it to be. I did put an extra thick layer of chocolate icing on the side so the Kit Kats can stick to it. I put it in the fridge so that the icing can stabilize a little bit, and then I took these Oreo cookies, took the cream part out, and then used the actual cookies to give it the dirt texture onto the cake. And this is what the inspirational picture also used. They did use Oreo cookies. At this point I was not happy with how this cake was turning out. I really wanted the Kit Kat bars to be a little higher than the bottom tier, and I was just trying to think of ways how I can make this work. And this is the mentality that you should have when you are making custom cakes. Things will go wrong, but you just have to work your way around it. When I took out this cake from the fridge, the Kit Kat bars really slipped down to the bottom and the height was really off. So what I started doing is started putting this crumb on the top, but then it wasn't that stable. Then we put a single bar of Kit Kat on the bottom, and honestly that just worked wonders. I did put a little bit of chocolate icing on the side so I can cover it up nicely, and then put the Oreo crumbs on the side so that it is nicely in place, and even in moving it doesn't go everywhere. This looked really nice. It did give the height that I wanted. Then I cut a little cavity on the front of the cake, tried to make it as similar as the inspirational pic. I didn't want to lose a lot of cake, and the crumbs that came out of this area I did put it and use it on the top of the cake, as I wanted to show some texture here. Also, one thing I really want to recommend, if you guys are doing your first or second cakes, do pick inspiration of a cake that is a little bit imperfect or textured, as those cakes are much more forgiving as compared to the ones that have like crisp white buttercream on top with nice round flowers. I put the little toy truck on the top of the first tier and then started putting little bit M&Ms with little bit of chocolate on the back so that they can stick and stay put while this cake is being transported. I was so happy how this cake was turning out, and the pop of colors that the M&M items were giving is so cute. Lastly, I also used Maltesers as they were used in the inspirational pic as well. They looked so cute, gave the right construction look to this cake. Lastly, a cake topper, and this cake was complete. I was so happy how it turned out. Did have a lot of leftover from this cake, so I decided to make cake pops from it. So do subscribe to my channel if you want to see how I made these cake pops. And also, these are all the pictures of the cakes that I've made in the past. I really hope you found this video and tips useful. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Okay, bye.